This is Nathan. He's built a company with over 5 million followers, and you've probably seen him interviewing experts like Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, and Richard Branson. But what you haven't seen is his story.
Well, I have Nathan on the podcast today. It's very special to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Great to be here.
It's good to be here. I know we've kind of switched it up. I know you're usually on this side, and
Yep.
So maybe you're a little bit in the hot seat, but
Yep.
yeah, appreciate you having us here in your studio.
Really my absolute pleasure. It's always good to be on the other side of the table. Sometimes it's a bit nostalgic. And look, I've been building Foundr for 12, 13 years now. So I've seen a lot, done a lot, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons, and I'm here to help however I can.
It's amazing. Yeah. That's kind of where I wanted to start off the podcast, was like at the beginning, because you have been doing it for like 12, 13 years now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of, start it back at the beginning and see, I guess, whether you saw yourself here 12 or 13 years ago. So I just wanted to read a couple of stats about what you've done over the last 12 to 13 years. So you've done 560 podcast episodes, 135 magazine issues, 100 plus courses, a book, which is just there, almost 4 million on Instagram, almost 1 million on Facebook, 280,000 on YouTube, over 300,000 on TikTok, and tens of thousands of students. So I'm curious, did you ever see it getting this big when you started out?
Never. Literally, I started Foundr to scratch an itch because I was really curious around business and entrepreneurship. And I started looking for a job in marketing. And then at the same time, I was hearing stories about people starting online businesses. I was starting to listen to podcasts around people starting online businesses. There was a show by a guy called Pat Flynn called the SPI podcast, and he was interviewing people building these online businesses with no skills or experience whatsoever. And I had a genuine curiosity. So I had an opportunity to purchase this software that allowed me to launch a digital magazine on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. And at first, the magazine was going to be on horse racing, funnily enough, because I was living with my housemate at the time, and he's now on TV every day at racing.com. He's a horse racing journalist, and he got a job at racing.com. And so I ended up kind of not doing that magazine with him. So I was like, okay, well, I'm really interested in entrepreneurship. I can see that there's a movement here. I can see that more than ever, people are going to start building online businesses. How can I learn myself, but then also share these stories? So I started to interview people just for fun for this magazine, and didn't even have a successful person on the front cover, had no idea what I was doing, knew nothing about magazines, knew nothing about apps, knew nothing about publishing, knew nothing about editorial or design. And somehow I put out like a pretty bad magazine, and it took me a long time to do it too, right? Like, I know a lot of people, they have an idea in their head and you really kind of drag your feet. I was dragging my feet. Like, it took me like 8-10 months post purchasing that software. Didn't have much money at the time. Was making about 50, 60 grand a year, and put that $2,000 on my credit card to purchase that software for a lifetime license to produce the magazine. And it took me 8 to 10 months to get the first edition ready. I launched it, and day one we made $5.50. By the end of that month, we made $80. So we had 2 subscribers. By the end of the month, we had maybe like 15 subscribers.
Wow. So you have people signing up pretty quick.
Yeah. And that's the power of launching a product on a marketplace with people that are prepared to pay, with buyers, right? You look at Amazon from an e-commerce perspective, right? You look at TikTok Shop. Like, these are platforms where you can launch, and if your product's okay, people will purchase. So I didn't have an amazing product. I thought it was good, but it was come a long way. So to answer your question, no, I never thought that. I was taking the magazine to job interviews in the first 3-4 months of starting it. Even after I got an interview with Richard Branson, that was when it started to hit. That took 4 months to get an interview with Richard Branson. And then that's when I was kind of like, you know what? I can at least make this my full-time job. I think I can make this my full-time job. I think I can do this full-time. I think I can live the life that other people I'm interviewing are living. And what happened was I found that the more and more people that I spoke to about building a successful business, I became more and more embarrassed and ashamed that I wasn't doing it, and this was a side project. And that
became
forced
more
me.
embarrassed?
Yeah, because I was like, I felt like a fraud. Because who is this guy starting a business around entrepreneurship, and this is his first business, and he doesn't even know anything about entrepreneurship, and he's not even doing it full time. It's just this little side hobby passion project. So I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I felt like a fraud. I felt like an imposter. And I think that's what a lot of people feel when they're starting something, and it's hard to have that belief, the self-belief. But you know what kept me going?
What kept you going?
It was those 2 subscribers, those 2 people that believed in me to purchase that magazine subscription. Like, I'm not the kind of person to want to let somebody down. And so I literally just was like, okay, well, I've got to produce the next version. They're paying a subscription. I've got to produce the next edition. And I just kept doing edition after edition after edition. And then here we are.
Wow. Did you even have that belief before the 2 paying subscribers started, or that 2 subscribers made you have the belief?
The 2 subscribers kept me accountable. The belief came after a couple of years. The belief came after I, went full time. Like, the beliefs came when I got even with Richard Branson. So started to build. But to answer your question, no, I never thought I'd be here. I never thought it would be as big as it's become. In many ways, I never really signed up to be a CEO. In many ways, like that's a transition of itself, right? I love to build. I love to create things, and I'm a true entrepreneur at heart. But yeah, I never planned for it to be massive. You know what? I'll tell you a good story. I remember on the last day of my day job when I was going full-time on Foundr, they had a going away party for me.
Okay.
It was amazing. Great company, Intrepid Travel, great people, great culture. And I was having after work drinks with some of my old team members at the time, and they're like, soon you're going to have to get staff. And I kind of almost jumped out of my chair, and I was like, nah, like that's not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to have staff. And the guy, his name was Chris. He said, mate, I think you will. So that in of itself, like it took me 15 months, I think, 15 months to go from launching Foundr in 2013 to then going full time on it. And yeah, even at that time, I didn't even think I was going to have staff. I didn't think that big. So it took a few years.
That's pretty unreal that it's like come from that. I'm curious as well. You said the first issue took you 8 to 9 months, and then from there it was like monthly.
Yes.
What was it, I guess, that kept you going during that 8 to 9 months? Because like I've heard you invested like $2,000, which is pretty massive investment. And yeah, I'm curious what kept you going during that 8 to 9 months?
Look, it's all relative, right? Like, people spend $40,000, $50,000 on a university degree. A lot of us will have had HECS debts right here in Australia. But $2,000 is a lot of money to me at the time when I was only making $50,000, $60,000 a year. So for me to want to do that, it came from a point of frustration.
Frustration?
Yeah.
Really?
It came from a point of not happy with my current situation and the work, most importantly, the work that I was doing. So altruistically, I launched Foundr because I want to help people and I love helping people, but then also at the same time, selfishly, I wanted to create a business and a company and do work that I was passionate about, because that was always my guiding principle. I believe that life is too short to not do work that you don't enjoy.
Okay.
And that was where it all started, man. And that's where the frustration came from. That's where the hunger came from. That's where and then the obsession started, because once I launched it and once I was building this thing, I was making next to no money, Josh. Like I told you, dude, like we made $80 in the first month, right? We made $5.50. I never forget, I came home after going to work and I, came home, my housemate and his girlfriend were there, and we were like, let's go down to the local fish and chip shop. And we walked down to the local fish and chip shop to get dinner. And I said, hey guys, I launched the magazine today. And I said, I made $5.50. How good? And his girlfriend laughed and was like, is that all?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, that is all, right? So for me, like, that meant a lot. But for somebody else, why would you do it? Why would you keep going, right? So many people, like, we have an amazing community at Foundr. We have, Foundr Plus, our coaching programs, all sorts of things. And like, people get disheartened when they launch. Like, we help people start and grow e-commerce businesses.
Yeah.
People get disheartened when they launch and they're like, I only made $500 my launch weekend. Oh, not good. You know what I mean? Right? Like, and I think for me, there was all signs pointed to stop doing this, but it wasn't about the money. It was about the work. And that's when the obsession kicked in. And once I had that obsession, there was no stopping me. I was going to make this work.
Really? No stopping you. It was going to make it work. Wow.
Yep.
That's really interesting, because I think, a lot of people, it's hard to see the long-term vision of something when you like put all the effort into building something and then on the first weekend or the first month, you only see something small. You're not going to see the fruits of the labor for a long time. I think that's like a really common thing in the early 20s. So I'm curious, what would be your advice to someone who's in their 20s and maybe they're starting like an e-commerce brand, or they're starting something new? What do you think, I guess, would be something you'd tell them?
So early on in my journey and career, I got this really good piece of advice, and they said, he was an early mentor, and he said to me, you know what, Nathan, he sold his many companies and he used to start doing talks, a mentor of mine, and he, after the talk, a lot of people would, wait around and speak to him, and they say, hey, I'm going to be like you one day. I want to do this, and I really want to start my own business. I really want to build a successful business, whatnot. And he said to me, Nathan, you know what the sad thing is? Unfortunately, a lot of those people, they won't make it because they just don't want it bad enough.
Right, they don't want it bad enough.
And as harsh as this sounds, like to build a successful business, to build something of true worth and significance, it has to be an obsession. It has, you have to want it so badly. And, my advice to, people in their 20s is you need to find a way to work out how you want it bad enough, that hunger. How do you develop and cultivate that hunger? Because most people will say they want to start a business. Like who wouldn't? Right? There's a lot of there's a lot of upsides, but there's a lot of downsides too, right? And it's, most people are comfortable, right? And what causes true change? Like when I interviewed Tony Robbins, I said to him, you've worked with all sorts of famous celebrities, sports people, high-performing athletes, people playing the highest levels of all areas of life and business and health and fitness and career, and competitive sports. And I said, what is it, right? What is it that shifts somebody if you've turned so many people's lives around? And he says, unfortunately, Nathan, the biggest thing that moves somebody is pain, right?
It's pain, really.
Unfortunately, experiencing deep struggle, deep pain, right? That is the only thing that moves you, right? To truly cause that change. So how do you get that obsession? How do you get that hunger? And that is what you need to be able to cultivate if you're wanting to start any business. It can't be just a hobby. It can't be just something that you're doing for fun, right? Like, it's tough, right? So you have to want it bad enough. How can you find a way to cultivate that hunger to want it bad enough? And then in regards to like working out what it is you want to do, you know, spend time with people that are doing things that you find interesting, right? Like, how can you work for them? How can you learn from them, right? Like, because if you spend 6 months with somebody and you see their life and you think from the outside they've got an amazing life and they've got an awesome business, actually work out, like actually spend time with them, and you'll work out pretty quickly if that's something you want to do.
Yeah.
And that was the advice he gave me, and I thought it was always interesting. It stood with me.
That's really interesting. On that like pain thing, what was, I guess, the pain that drove you to, I guess, push through all those hard times? Because I think there was like some moments I've heard that were like pretty tough in the early days. Like within the first couple of months, I think you got sued by a pretty big magazine, which would have been like,
that was scary,
pretty tough and like scary. Of like, I've just started this thing. Like, yeah, what was, I guess, the pain that drove you through those hard moments?
Yeah, so for me, it was around doing work that I was passionate about. I'd been working in IT support, and I'm not here to bash, you know, that is a career choice for anybody, but that wasn't for me. And I always felt deep within inside of me, and I know sometimes some people feel this, that they are destined or they could be so much more and do so much more. And I just, there was something inside of me that knew deep down like I could be and do so much more. And the work that I was doing, I wasn't passionate about. I scraped through university, right? I almost got kicked out of university. I got a 62 enter score. It was just above average. Most people, you know, it's funny now, I ask people, hey, what do you think my enter score is? Most people say, oh, you got like 80, 90. No, I struggled in high school, dude. Like, you know, my family's super supportive now, but they used to joke with family friends, like, if things don't work out for Nathan, like, we can always buy him a Jim's Mowing franchise, right? I was not by any means destined to do incredible, great, impactful things, right? Or have a successful career in any shape or form. So,
but you intuitively saw that in yourself?
I felt it. Yeah, intuitively I felt it. Deep down I felt it, and I don't know what it is. And then like I scraped through to get into a degree, and then that degree I almost got kicked out. The first year I failed. The first semester I failed 3 out of 4 subjects, and the university board called me in, didn't know what it was about, and they said, Nathan, you failed 3 out of 4 subjects. We're going to have to kick you out if you fail any more.
Really?
Yeah, and that was like, you know, I just scraped into uni. Like, I want to make my parents proud. I didn't even tell them. And or maybe I did. And I took a bit of a break, and then I worked at Target in the loading docks, like, you know, just like, I should have traveled but didn't. And then, like, you know, just scraped through uni, and then I got a job at a place that, you know, honestly, dude, I didn't even know if I wanted to work in IT support. Like, I got, you know, part of my degree, I had a 1 year, what's called like a cadetship, or so basically you work in industry, basically as an intern, but you're paid a little more than an intern.
Yeah.
Bare minimum. So I was paid $28,000 a year.
Okay. Yeah.
To work for a year at this accounting firm, and it was like the first job that I applied for. I spoke to the careers counselor, and I said, oh man, I'm not sure about this job. And he's like, the careers counselor at RMIT said to me, oh, Nathan, I've had so many people that are struggling to get jobs, just take it. And I didn't know that one decision was the trajectory for the next 5 years of my career, because then I worked at that internship in IT support, and then I could only get a subsequent job in IT support because I didn't have experience in any other areas. And so, you know, like, honestly, dude, like that was the frustration. That was the pain. Was like, I'm doing work that it's not me. It's not me. It's not me. I don't want to do this. Like, and yeah, everyone has to work, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm privileged by any means, but like we all have to work. We all have to pay the bills. We all have commitments. We have responsibilities. So I knew I had to work. I had to get a job, but the work I was not passionate about. It was not fun. It was not enjoyable. It didn't light me up. So when I was working on Foundr, man, I'd work on it like day in, day out because it was so much fun and it didn't feel like work.
So I'm guessing, like you said, it took, was it 14, 15 months for you to quit your job?
Yeah, from
was
launch.
that the IT support job?
Yep.
That's the IT support job?
Yeah. So I did the internship. I was there for 2 years, and then I did a Europe trip all around Europe. My first Europe trip. And with my best mate at the time, Aaron Abrahams, who unfortunately passed away from cancer. Right. I went to kindergarten, primary, high school, university with him, and then we traveled all around Europe. So then we went around Europe together, and I had this big realization that I need to make a change. And so I came back, left that job, went back, studied a master's of marketing, and then got a job at Intrepid Travel. I worked at Intrepid Travel for about 3 years, and that was an incredible company.
Yeah, wow, okay. That's really interesting. It's really cool to hear, like, I think sometimes, because it's quite easy to like, wow, like you've built this incredible thing, but yeah, we don't necessarily get to see like all the hardships that you went through to get there. And it's like quite humanizing to see that, and like very encouraging as well, because it's like, a lot of us in life don't have things figured out. We're still figuring things out, and
we all are.
Yeah, it's very encouraging. So I'm curious, what happened in that first year of the Foundr magazine once you like went full time with it? What was that experience like? Did you hire a team member then? Was it all yourself?
Yeah, so that was, you know what? Looking back, that was some of the funnest times ever. And I'll tell you why. And it was because I just went full-time on Foundr. I unfortunately had a falling out with my new housemate at the time, and we had to we signed a lease on a place, and it's actually hilarious. I've never told this story, but we signed a lease on a new place because we're getting kicked out of the other one. It was a new housemate. And it was a guy that I met, friend of a friend. And we got this other place, and then we both wanted the best room.
Yeah,
and
as we all do.
As we all do. And I said, all right, the only way we can settle this is from the flip of the coin.
Oh, wow. That's very bold.
And of course I won. And then I went out, still quite young, and went and partied, because I was like, 25 or whatever. Went out and partied with some mates. And then that night I'm getting text messages saying, mate, unless you give me that room, this isn't fair. I'm cutting the lease.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm bailing. And then I'm like, well, I don't know how I'm going to live with it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, all right, well, look, you know what? Let's cut the lease then, because I thought to myself, you know what, is this someone I want to be living with for the next another 12, 24 months?
Yeah.
And so I went back home. I went back home to my parents' place. So I didn't plan on it, but I went back home to my parents' place. This was like about a month after I started Foundr. I went back home to my parents' place, and I started living in my parents' basement. And it was so cool. It was the best. So they had this downstairs area, and I would work on Foundr from about, 10 a.m. to about 3 a.m. nonstop. I'd go upstairs for breakfast, hanging out with my family, and then my mum and my dad. My brother, my brother was still living there too, so I'd hang out with my brother too. My little brother's 7 years younger than me. We played games, whatever, like Fortnite, whatever. It was the best. And then, I'd go back, do some more work, and then come up for lunch. We'd all have lunch together, and I'd go back down and I'd work nonstop. And then sometimes I'd see my girlfriend at the time like after dinner, maybe like 8 o'clock, or I'd just keep working till 3 a.m.
Wow.
And then I'd wake up at like 10. It was the funnest times ever. And you know what? I was on fire, dude.
Really?
When I went full time on Foundr, the amount of interviews, the growth the company had, that's when I found Instagram. I blew up the Foundr Instagram. I was networking. I was just like everything I touched turned into gold. Like that's how it felt. And that was dangerous because I had a really good run for like 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And so, you know, I was getting interviews with Tim Ferriss, like Seth Godin. I remember one story like I sent like it's Seth Godin, he responds to every email. And I wrote him an email at like 1 a.m. saying, I want to interview you. I love all your books. You're a hero of mine. Let's talk about, you know, how to market a brand, how to market a company. I think it'd be an awesome podcast. I've interviewed this person. And then I wake up. So I roll out of bed. For whatever reason, I woke up at like 6 a.m. and I checked my emails unhealthily. And he wrote back like literally like two hours ago when I was sleeping. It's like, yeah, I can do, or maybe it was something like, I can do it in 15 minutes from now.
Yeah.
So from when I saw the email, I woke up. I shouldn't have woken up. I woke up. I can do it 15 minutes from now. I jumped on my desk. So my bed was next to me and my desk was there next to me.
No
and
way.
I banged out the interview. Like, dude, I used to do so many interviews via Skype.
Yeah.
Like I know like Tony Robbins' Skype name. I know Seth Godin's Skype name. And like I never used to put the webcam on because I was embarrassed because people would see the background that I was in my parents' basement, man. So I only used to do audio only. What a disaster, right? What a disaster. So yeah, it was awesome, man. Like I was on fire. Like what happened was I really grew Foundr. Like I massively grew Foundr and I was building the brand and like it was really fun. And then, you know, after about 6 months, I hired my first employee. Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. Like, dude.
What were they doing? Like,
here we go. This is a good one. So I was going to local Melbourne startup events and I was speaking and doing panels and putting myself out there. And I met this guy. His name's JC. He had the same last name as me.
okay.
And JC, we called him. And like I just thought he reminded me of myself. And I just thought he had really good hustle. So he gave me his card and he said he writes content. And I caught up with him for a coffee and I gave him a job.
No way.
Yeah, like this is how much I didn't know anything about what I was doing, dude. Like it is crazy. Like I know a lot of people when they start a business, you know, they've worked at other companies or they've done management or some sort of like, I was never exposed to anything like hiring people, like all this stuff. I've had to learn it all. Like it's been wild, dude.
Yeah. Do you think like you would have grown as fast if you did know it? Like if you knew it, you would have grown faster?
Yeah. So like I look at like some people that have joined Foundr, and the cool thing about joining Foundr is you know, we open up everything and you get a real front row seat on how to build a successful online business. And I also love to give people a lot of opportunity. So you can run with things, you can do all sorts of really cool things. You get a lot of good exposure and a lot of opportunities. And I look at some people, certain people, not always, but certain people that have come and joined Foundr and what they're doing now from what they've been able to learn. Incredible masterclass on how to build, start, grow, market, grow a business, how to hire, train, like all lead, culture, all that stuff. And I've seen people like doing exceptionally well, like from joining Foundr then leaving, and which is awesome that we can create that kind of opportunity for people. But I guess if I had that same level of education, yeah, if Foundr would be 9 days, really? 10 times bigger, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have heard like some people say it's like if they knew how hard it would be and all the things they'd done, they almost like wouldn't go back and do it. But it's interesting because I guess you've learned so much, especially because you interviewed so many people as well. And it's not like you're just building your own thing, but you've also interviewed the best. So that would have given a lot of knowledge.
I do agree with that statement though. I do agree that naivety is very powerful when you're coming into an industry when you know nothing about it, and it's what keeps you going. But I also do believe that there's a lot of business building fundamentals that you either learn if you are working in a corporate job at various levels, and when I say various levels, if you're working in some form of leadership positions, senior management, like you just learn like so much more versus I was very green. Like, dude, I had no exposure to like anything business building fundamentals, and that's where it was a steep learning curve.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what happened, I guess, in the next stage of Foundr? So like in that first year, you obviously interviewed like some of the biggest entrepreneurs like ever, like Tim Ferriss and it was Tony Robbins and a bunch of all those other ones as well, which is pretty crazy. What happened in like that next stage when you started to scale and you really saw that massive Instagram growth and the team started to grow? What was that like?
Yeah, so I started to build a small team around me, and we started to really scale up our content. So what I identified was that what you can do with one podcast interview, what you can do with one or many pieces of content, how you could spin it, and one podcast could be an audio, a video, it could be a quote, it could be a newsletter, like all these different things. So we just started creating more content effectively in many ways, and I started to build a team around me. And I guess the next big arc of the story was I started to identify an opportunity to get to not just, a lot of people are teaching courses now, right? Like I thought it was a pretty saturated market when I was getting into it. Now, the same with podcasting, right? Now these things are just 100x. Like everyone's got a course, everyone's got a podcast. So I saw an opportunity at that time to effectively ask the people that I was interviewing to teach courses for Foundr. I taught a course and it was game changing. It was really impactful around Instagram growth to help people. And then I was like, I had this vision. Well, what if I could create a platform, not like Udemy or Skillshare, but something that is, I guess really entrepreneurship focused, taught by what I call practitioners, not gurus, where perhaps they don't need to teach a course to make an income. Perhaps they are really good at their craft. They're not interested in going out and saying, I'm this person, I've done this, this, and this. Look at how great I am by my course. But they have really good industry expertise, and these are people that I would interview and legit founders that I would interview. And so I started on this mission to really kind of build a platform around getting people that we were interviewing to teach courses and programs. And that was a very, very long journey, because then eventually that became a subscription and a membership. Not too dissimilar to, like a masterclass or a Skillshare or any of these other platforms. And that was the next big area for us for growth and scale, and really just more content creation, right? Really kind of looking at, okay, how can we create more content to serve people?
That's really interesting. You're kind of at the forefront of that, because I guess, as you said, like everyone now has a podcast and everyone now has a course and that kind of thing. How did you see the front of both of those industries? You were very early into the podcast, and you were very early into the I guess course kind of area, even though it's not necessarily courses, it's more of a subscription. But how did you see that? Because now everyone's starting a podcast. Guilty.
Yeah.
How did you see that?
So, look, I just kind of fell into these things where, podcasting has been around for over 20 years, right? And when it came to the podcast and doing a magazine, I just had to interview people, right? And so it was only natural that I started a podcast, right? It wasn't anything strategic whatsoever. And then when it came to creating online programs, like we're effectively a media company. A lot of I started to see and look at successful media and publishing companies in different industries. A lot of them got towards premium content.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a natural progression to create courses. It really was, because a lot of people would ask, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? How can I get more help? How can I get more support? And I could see that was where the model was going, right? And, I can also still see more than ever, right, that it's a fairly unscrupulous industry too. Right?
Unscrupulous industry.
Like it's, there's a lot of negativity and preconceived notions and connotations around, you got a course or whatnot, right? And that was still around back then.
Yeah.
Right. But now it's more than ever, right? Because people see the power in personal brands, right? And so that's something that has definitely changed, that, to be honest, I wasn't onto, right? This is something that I missed. If I knew what I knew now, imagine if I had started actually documenting my journey on a YouTube channel. Imagine if I did that. Imagine how much bigger Foundr would be. Imagine the size, the influence of my personal brand, right? So I built a decent personal brand where people know of Foundr and they know of me, but I don't have that strong relationship. And that's only something, honestly, Joshua, that I'm starting to work on now, right?
Yeah.
Like this year, I'm starting to put out content. I'm starting to tell stories. I'm starting to share who I am and what I'm interested in, take people on a journey. I never really did that before. And, that's something I missed. Right. So I wasn't always strategic. It kind of just it was very obvious at the time.
Right. They just naturally progress that way.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I saw that you, I guess, started your personal brand earlier this year, which is actually interesting because I just assumed you would have had one out there. I know you had the mentor Instagram. Which I assumed you just kept private. But what was it about, I guess, this year in particular that made you think this is the time to start growing a personal brand?
Because I can just see now more than ever, people are interested far more in the person behind the company than the actual company itself. Now, don't get me wrong, people are interested in the company, but it's such a powerful tool to grow a business. And I have a decent, Foundr is a known brand somewhat in the entrepreneurship space, and I am a known entity, but not to the level that it should be. And I know that, I can see that. So for me, I always said I wanted to do it. And even in 2018, I tried for maybe a good couple months, but I lost train and track. And I was scared, if I'm being honest with you. I was scared. I was embarrassed. I didn't feel worthy, right? I didn't feel accomplished enough. And
what were you scared of? Do you mind if I ask?
What people would think. So, and I know that sounds crazy to some people, and the only reason I share that is to give people hope that, some people might look at me and go, wow, this guy's got it all worked out. I don't, nobody does, and so I was scared, and I was nervous, and I cared what other people thought of me, and I worried about making the content really perfect. And this year I was like, what changed, compared to 7 years ago when I was thinking about doing it and trying for a month or two, was honestly, I was like, I can see that enough's enough. I got to do it. The wave is brewing. You have to do it. I believe if your business is at a certain level, or if you have those skills. I have an unfair advantage because I've been behind cameras for the past 10, 12 years. I know how to tell stories. I know how to interview people. I know how to grow social media channels as well. But most importantly, I felt like it was time. I felt like I'd earned my stripes, and I was in a position, because we've got a great leadership team that's running a lot of the day-to-day for Foundr. So I wasn't as hands-on in the business.
So you could kind of take a little bit of a step back.
Yeah. Not fully, but yeah. So I felt like I had the mental space to really give it a crack.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's still early days. There's a lot I'm cooking up and working on behind the scenes to really grow it quite aggressively.
Okay. Is that Foundr or the personal brand?
My personal brand, yeah.
What are you, I guess, being intentional about with your personal brand to really, I guess, cook it? What's are these secrets?
No, it's fine. It's dude, it's all stories, right? Stories is what sticks. Stories is what people remember. I remember when I interviewed Dan Martell, he talked about stories. Stories is what sticks. If you're putting out any kind of content, you always want stories. And, I love playing around with AI now too. Like, oh, geez, it's so much easier now with AI, what you can train, what it can learn. It's crazy. The best pieces of content that I'm seeing that do really well are my own personal stories. They're true to me. A lot of these stories that I've shared with you, they're true to me. They're authentic. They're real and vulnerable. Like, I didn't want to post it. I wasn't sure if I should, but I did. And people know this, right? But I want people to get to know Nathan and who I am as a human. And not this guy behind Foundr, all that kind of stuff. And a couple of weeks ago, I have a lot of food allergies, right? And a couple of weeks ago, I went to this bakery and I was advised that I could have this thing, and it was a Portuguese tart. And I was like, oh, I was excited, never tried that before. And I told them my allergies, and unfortunately, it had coconut milk in it. Now, I didn't know that at the time because I was told it didn't have coconut. So I ate half of it and I had to be rushed to hospital because I was having an anaphylactic reaction. And it was probably like the second biggest life-threatening anaphylactic reaction I had, and I had to spend 24 to 48 hours in ICU.
Yeah, wow.
And I had to go on an adrenaline drip adrenaline infusion, just pumping me full of adrenaline. And I didn't know whether I should share that story or not because I didn't want to go, okay, well, it's me, but I shared it, and the engagement was like 500,000 views, right? And so what I find is the things that get the most engagement, the content that really cuts through is my own stories.
Your own stories, really.
Yeah, and that's what is powerful, right? So if you're watching this, listening to this, and you want to start a company, how can you tell stories in a very interesting way to take people on a journey? Like, I love the idea of founder-led content. Like, I started an e-commerce brand for fun because I was sick and tired of talking about it. And, I didn't talk about it, but like our teachers and coaches and all that talk about it. Yeah. And we're helping a lot of people do it. I was like, well, why don't I do it? And so I built this, $1 million brand. It's called Healthish time-marked water bottle. And I did it because I had a chip on my shoulder, right? And I did really well, used all my skills, flexed it, ended up selling it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to build another e-commerce brand. I don't know when, but I'll do it in the next couple of years. And this time around, when I do it, I'm going to go founder-led content. I'm going to take people, I'm going to record the content, I'm going to show people how I'm building, I'm going to show people it coming to life, and then I'm going to take people with me. And that's the best way you can do things now, right? Like, so this, you see it everywhere. Like, I was watching, there was this guy, not even just selling a product, but this guy, his name's Nate, and it come up on my feed, and he's showing his journey on how his girlfriend cheated on him with a club promoter, and now he's moved to Miami. He was based in New York, moved to Miami, and he's just taking people on the journey of his recovery of getting over the breakup. And it's fascinating, right? Yeah. He does one video every couple of days and he shows what he's up to, right? And anybody can do this, right? Everyone has a story, but it's all about storytelling. That's what cuts through. And the better you get at telling stories and taking people on a journey, the more people will follow you.
Really? Why do you think people like stories. Like, what is it about a story that people like? Is it particular types of stories, or is it just people like coming along for the ride? Like, what do you think it is?
It's the hero's journey, man.
Hero's journey. Okay.
By Joseph Campbell, right? That is how, I don't know if you know this, but every single Disney movie is based off the hero's journey. Are you familiar with the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell?
I'm not familiar with it by Joseph Campbell, but I have heard about it. Like, yeah,
it's a diagram, right? Yeah.
But did he invent it? Did he? Okay.
Well, he kind of popularized the concept, and that's what all Disney movies are built off, right? So
they all base themselves on that.
Yeah. So there's this circle, right, where it's a call to arms, and then you struggle, and then you make this thing work, and then you maybe struggle again, and then you give back and help that person, and then you finally reach the promised land, right? So there are so many lessons to be learnt when you watch movies or TV shows. And this is something I learnt from a mentor of mine and a coach of mine who I actually met about 15, 16 years ago before I even started Foundr.
Okay.
And like he recently got me to watch Ted Lasso. You seen Ted Lasso?
I actually haven't. My roommate's been telling me to watch it, and now I've got to. If you're telling me as well.
Dude, that. So many golden lessons in there around leadership, right? So once you understand, when you look at movies and TV shows and truly understand the hero's journey, you can see how you can take people on a journey and really capture their attention, because that's all a lot of this is how do you capture somebody's attention and really build relationships at scale. Like this is the power of business, right? That's all business is. Business is building relationships at scale, right? You look at these luxury brands like Chanel, right? People have a relationship with that brand, and they'll pay a premium to purchase that product, right? So that's all this is, right? Business, whatever business you're creating, it's relationships, and how can you build relationships at scale? Because the more relationships you have at scale, the more you're likely to have commerce occurring, and then that commercial transaction, that exchange in value, right? Mr. Beast, master of building relationships at scale. Now, has he been that successful with some of his business ventures? Maybe not. He just hasn't found the right products, right? But it's all about relationships, dude. It's about building relationships at scale. And it's not about, that's why having a personal brand is powerful, because it allows you to build relationships at scale faster than a traditional company. So that's what I'm really interested in now. Is building relationships at scale. Yeah. Also through Foundr, but using my personal brand as a vehicle too, because you look at the most iconic brands and they have a leader. Yeah. Steve Jobs, Apple, Richard Branson, Virgin, Spanx, Sarah Blakely, right? Like, you see, true. Like, I don't think of the 4 banks in Australia. I don't think of any person particularly. Yeah. Which is quite interesting. Yeah. Now it's not like, I know it's easy as well. Another mentor of mine taught me about this thing called situational stage advice. Situational stage advice. Okay. Yeah. So I used to be mentored by this guy. He's probably a billionaire now. He started a company called Big Commerce. It was second competitor to Shopify. He listed on the NASDAQ. He's on the rich list in Australia. Probably last I checked. You were friends with him before Foundr? No. He was coaching me while I was growing Foundr. So I was paying him about $5,000 a month to coach me. And he taught me this thing around situational stage advice, Mitch. Because I was saying to him at the time, Gary Vee writes back to every single comment on his Instagram. Should I be doing that with Foundr? And he laughed. And he said to me, Nathan, there's this thing called situational stage advice where you got to be really careful what you see, read, and hear and listen to online, because the thing is, right, Gary responds to every single person's comment or message they send him because he has a team of 300 people. Right now, for you, you got to grow Foundr. You got to lead that team. You don't have time to responding to that stuff because you have better time. You can be spending your time better leverage doing other things. And so the reason I mention that is because for certain people, it might not be the right time to build their personal brand, right? It just depends. It depends what you naturally lean into as well, right?
Yeah.
You can still build a successful company without building a personal brand. It comes down to the person. It comes down to how comfortable they feel, how they best share content, all these different things, right? But if it doesn't energize them, if they don't enjoy it, it can be tough, right? And it's just one of many ways you can get cut through and build relationships at scale. But that's all business is building relationships at scale. So I see right now a massive opportunity in building any online business, whether it's a SaaS business, whether it's a consulting service-based business, whether it's an e-commerce business, whether it's an online education business, whatever business. It is so powerful to build your personal brand and to build relationships at scale. But I have an unfair advantage because I've been doing this for a long time, right? It's a grind for some people.
Yeah, I imagine you would have learned so much over the last 13 years about content, about telling stories, about how to speak on camera and all those types of things. I'm curious, you mentioned about the struggle. So that I guess in that circular hero's journey, there's that struggle. Why is it, do you think, that people resonate with that? Because like intuitively, I almost don't want to share the struggles that I have. Like, I guess they feel vulnerable. And so, I'm curious. It's like, why do people, I guess, attract to that, do you think?
Yeah, because it makes that person relatable. It humanizes that person, and it's real and it's raw and it connects. Like some of the stories that I've shared with you today, it's been quite real, raw, and I hope it connects. So yeah, for me, the struggles is what humanizes people. Vulnerability is a very, very powerful tool to build relationships. However, you can't always use it. You have to use it sparingly. It has to be authentic, right? I've, done interviews in the past where someone knows the power of vulnerability and it was too much, right? They were sharing stories of too much. There's always a little bit of balance, right?
Okay.
There's always a bit of balance, but you have to, if you want to connect and you can connect deeper, you can be vulnerable by sharing struggles. People like to follow someone that they can relate to, and you can relate to somebody if they're sharing their struggles. It's relatability, right? It's very hard to relate to someone that's a billionaire where you don't know or hear constantly their struggle, like struggles that took for them to get there.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, actually. Because I think I was actually listening to a podcast last week by, you probably know, like Iman Ghazi. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, he was saying that one of the things he's struggling with at the moment is he's not relatable. Like he doesn't, he's, I guess, struggling to have an audience that actually relate with him now. And that's one of the things he said was strange. So that's actually, really interesting. I never really, I guess, thought about it that way.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, and very, very, very interesting. Because I know him, never met him, but his content is very aspirational.
Yeah,
right, and it is hard. It is hard to relate to that.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm curious. I guess, what do you see next for Foundr? What are you guess the next things that you're dreaming of for Foundr?
Yeah, so for me, what I see next with Foundr is to really keep building out our membership platform, and then also there's quite a few pieces happening in the background around our coaching and mentorship arm of the business. We help existing and aspiring e-commerce founders scale up. So there's a lot of work that we're doing there to make both of those products awesome. I think, over time, I really had the entrepreneurial bug, launching these books, doing this magazine, all these different things, we've got our content, which is our top of funnel, really kind of to help people. And then, we've got a lot of great ways that we can help people. So for what's next for me with Foundr is keep doubling down on our existing products, looking at other ways we can serve our community and people in our community, and really, really build out our membership and mentoring arms of the business. There's a lot of work happening in the background there. So for me, continue to build the brand, continue to find more ways to serve our community, but then also at the same time, more content, keep building my personal brand. And then lastly, eventually I want to get into localization.
Localization.
Yeah. How can we start like Foundr Espanol? How can we start Foundr India, Foundr China, right? How can we start creating localized brands? That's really exciting to me.
Wow, that'll be very exciting.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to hear the Foundr story. I'm interested to know, because I guess you've learned from experience from building all these things, but you've also learned from experience from interviewing lots of the people that have, built things themselves and that. So you would have almost gathered all this knowledge from all these different people. What have you noticed have been, I guess, the core characteristics that you've seen in people that have, I guess, gone on to achieve things? What have been like the core characteristics you've seen in them?
Yeah, this is an always interesting question. It comes up a lot when people interview me. And one thing I'll be honest with you, Joshua, is when I do a lot of these interviews, a lot of it, because I've done so many, it's awesome that you counted. So you said it was like 500 something?
I think it was 563.
Yeah, 563.
I think when I was doing the research, it was 560, but I think you've done 3 since I did the research.
Yeah. Okay, so 563, there you go. Like that, if you think about that, that is a huge blur. Like I was talking to one of my friends yesterday and, we were talking about tools and tech and he was talking about this company he uses and I was like, I think I've interviewed that founder. Like I can't even remember.
Oh, wow.
like there's been so many, right? And so, look, there's a couple of key things that I can share that is abundantly obvious to me now. We talked about obsession, right? Like that, like every single person that I interview that has built something of true worth and significance, they have an insane obsession. The other thing is they are patient and they've been building this thing for anywhere between 7 to 15 to 20 plus years, right? That like it takes between literally 7 to 10 years to build anything of true worth and significance. That's what Mitch told me, right? And he's right, 7 to 10 years to build it.
7 to 10 years.
Yeah. Now look, AI might help you accelerate that a little bit.
Okay.
But still to get cut through all those different things. And then in regards to, we've got obsession, we've got patience and that time span. Another thing is I think every single one of those founders, they have courage.
Courage, really? Okay.
Of course, man. Like a lot of these people are playing at really high levels where they could lose it all, where it's scary, where it's fearful and they're afraid and it might not work, but they do it anyway. And so I think that's a really, really key and important trait to look for in an individual. How have they shown areas in their life where they've shown courage or tremendous amounts of it? And then lastly, they are very good at identifying the right people to have around them and then to motivate.
Okay.
So
is that mentors or employees or what's that?
I'd say a combination of both.
Okay.
But businesses are built by people. So all of these successful people that we see that we put up on a pedestal, they're surrounded by really, really talented people that are helping move things forward, right? And that's a very distinct skill and art in of itself to find great people, but then to foster that talent and then to nurture and then to take people on that journey with you and to have everyone winning and to build great culture. All of those things, it comes from the founder, right? Like a lot of it comes from the founder and the founding team and all of that. So, but how does that founder architect that, right? And so you have to be a really good people person.
Okay.
Right. Or good enough to see. Right. Another thing is they've got great products, man. Right.
Yeah. That does help.
Like you have to have a great product It has to solve a really strong problem. And you have to keep making your product better, right? And then the last one that I'd share with people that is probably the most interesting out of all these traits that you'd probably read, you can Google it, whatever, is these people are no smarter than you or I. It's what I've come to believe is that a lot of these people that I interview are no smarter than you or I. They've had courage. It's been an obsession. They've been insanely focused. They've surrounded themselves with great people. And yeah, they're no smarter than you or I, right?
Wow.
And but they've been able to make it work from all those things I just shared.
That's really interesting. Do you see a lot of those characteristics in yourself, do you reckon?
Look, I've had to develop them. Yes. Yeah, I do.
That's very cool. What about rituals and habits? Are there any rituals or habits that you found have really helped you over the last few years, or you've seen have been helpful to, I guess, other people you've interviewed as well?
Yeah. So, look, I'm going to go a little Alex Hormozi on this one. I don't have like a crazy morning routine or any fancy pearls of wisdom that I could share, and I could probably be more productive than I am. I'm not sure. But there's a couple of rituals that I do have. I live and die by my calendar. I'm very, very, like I try to use time blocking when I can on certain areas. Like, you know, I've always got certain times blocked out for certain things. I'm pretty big on health and fitness nowadays. So I have always, you know, for the past 2-3 years, 4 years since I experienced burnout, I've always prioritized my health and well-being, and not had it at the sacrifice of, you know, business and business success. So I go to gym in the morning with my personal trainer 4 times a week, right? Like that's really, really important. I'm always getting, you know, I've come back a little bit, but I'm averaging about 9,000 steps a day, right? I'm always, it should be 10, but yeah, I'm always where I can, getting fresh air, walking, like that's very, very, very important. You know, another ritual I have, which is not sexy to many people, and it's not a productivity hack per se, but pretty much every single Sunday since I've moved out of home, I go to my parents' place for family dinner, right? That's grounding. You know, it's great to spend time with your family, and you know, you can have all what I realized, and I didn't share this one with you, Joshua, but in 2021, I'd come off Foundr's biggest year. You know, COVID was very, very crazy. We hired a lot of people. It was wild. And the business grew drastically. And I was like so burnt out. I didn't even know it. And it got to the point where I was waking up in the middle of the night with my heart beating really fast, and I was going to work. I didn't even want to work anymore, man. Like this was the thing I created, like loved. And it was because I just literally worked myself into the ground for like 7-8 years. But COVID really tipped me over because I just didn't stop. Like the lockdowns here were insane. Like you couldn't do anything, right? So you just work and just eat crap. And I really let myself go. I really, you know, just did, like, I just wasn't in a good headspace. And I realized then and there that you can have all the success, accolades, all these different things, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have your mental health, right? And ever since then, about 4 years ago, I am very, very protective of maintaining I don't hit burnout, and really just kind of hit home, you know, for me, just like you can have all this business success, all these different things, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have mental health, and it doesn't mean anything if you don't like your mental health, and it doesn't mean anything as well if you don't have, you know, amazing friends and family and people that love and care about you. Like that's everything, dude. An amazing partner, like an amazing life partner, like that's everything, dude. Like that core has to be right for you to, you know, like, and I think that's really, really important, and not enough people speak about it. And so for me, that's an important ritual. Seeing my family every Sunday, I very, very like. I'm always, if someone wants to catch up, a friend or a buddy, I'm always seeing them. I never decline because of work, or if I do, it's very, very rare. And yeah, like I'm pretty big on that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you have like set times when you stop working and things like that? Is there any other kind of things, or is it's mainly just family and friends really?
No, I just try and maintain a good balance, like, you know, and I do that from calendars. Like, you know, I know that I'm going to see my osteo once a month. I know that I'm going to go to the gym every single morning, 4 days a week. I know that I'm going to do 10,000 steps a day, or give or take. I know that I'm going to see my therapist once every couple of weeks. Like these are rituals that, as long as I'm doing those and they kind of become now non-negotiables, that helps me maintain a good solid state.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What would you do if you were 18 years old right now? I'm really curious about that because I guess a lot of the listeners are kind of in that 18 to 25 range, and I guess there's a lot of big decisions to make then. What would be, I guess, some of the first steps you would make if you were to be 18 right now?
Yeah. I know what I'd do for this. It's an easy one, actually. I would not go to uni. I would definitely go to uni, because I think it's like it's a bit of a controversial one because traditional education failed me, and Foundr is an alternative education source, right? So if you want to know how to build a business, especially an e-commerce business, you should not do an MBA. You should not go to university. You should sign up to Foundr Plus or do our coaching program, right? Fraction of the cost of a university degree. However, I still do believe that university is a great place to grow as an individual, to meet incredible friends, and to learn how to work with other people. And so if I was 18 right now, I wouldn't go to university. I'd take a gap year and I'd travel around the world. I think travel is such an incredible thing, and you grow as a human, and it allows you to do – it gives you a lot of time to reflect. It makes things really a lot more clearer for you. You get to learn more about yourself. Like if I was 18, I'd want to get to know who is Nathan, right? It took a long time. Like, and it takes everyone a long time to work out who you are. And those are the formative years where you want to work out who you are, what you want to do. And it doesn't mean you want to start a business, right? You know what I mean? Like you just want to have fun and enjoy and travel around the world, dude. Like that's one of my biggest regrets. I didn't travel enough.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, dude. So, you know, when I failed all those subjects, I shouldn't have worked at Target loading dock for 12 months. I should have traveled around the world.
Yeah, okay.
And then I've traveled a lot since. But no, that was one of my biggest regrets. I should have done an exchange. I should have done more travel. Like when you're young, like you don't have to build a business. You truly don't. Now, I know a lot of that is pushed, and there's a lot of aspirational lifestyle content that is put out.
Yeah.
But you don't have to build a business. You have to work out who you are as a person and what you enjoy, what you like, and really get to know you and just have fun. And don't get me wrong, having a business and you can structure things in a certain way where you can do that too, but it's a lot of hard yards. Like honestly, when you're 18, you just got to focus on having fun and work out who you are as an individual, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, and travel the world, man. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, that's what I would do. At 18, I would travel a lot. I'd live in London. I would live all around the world. I'd do exchanges. Like, I'd just have a lot of fun and like live a carefree life for a long time. And then once you start to get, you know, into career and that kind of stuff, and you finish your degree or whatnot, or you don't, you can start to work it out in your mid-20s, and that's what I did with Foundr. I'm now 38, and I started Foundr when I was, 26?
26, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
It's 12 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I think you can start to work things out in your mid-20s, but in your 20 teens,
Yeah.
And your early 20s, man, you want to just have fun and travel, and that's what I'd be doing.
That's pretty cool to hear. Well, I want to work towards finishing up, and we always finish up the podcast with some fun kind of short questions to finish up. So feel free to answer a sentence or two or one word, however you'd like to answer them. But these are the questions. If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, from any time in history, who would you have dinner with?
Three people. Look, I'm a massive Tupac fan, man. So
Okay.
I'd say Tupac, Elon Musk, controversial, I know, at this point, and Albert Einstein.
And Albert Einstein. How good. I know you would have had a lot of time to think about that, as I know you asked that question on the podcast. That's good. If you could go back to any one week in your life just to relive it exactly how it was, what week would you go back to?
A really good one. Look, there was a week there, I reckon, when I was traveling around Europe with Aaron. We were on a Kentucky tour, and I didn't get glandular fever yet. That was just so much fun. And like, we just didn't have a care in the world. It was the best ever. There was a week there traveling all around Europe, Amsterdam, Barcelona, London. Yeah, it was just the best.
That's very cool. If you could know the truth to any one thing, whether it's philosophical, scientific, conspiracy, whatever, what one thing would you want to know the truth to?
Oh, what price is Bitcoin going to get to?
Oh, we all want to know that one. Second last question. In 200 years' time, a school student has to write an essay on someone from history. They choose Nathan Chan and they go to Wikipedia. What do you hope the first sentence of the Wikipedia says about you?
Oh, dude, this one sounds a little vain. I guess that, you know, he is a successful entrepreneur that has built many companies that have helped people, build and start and grow businesses.
That's really cool. So this podcast is about sharing advice and lessons to people who are in their 20s and starting out their life. So I guess I'm curious. This is a question I heard in a recent podcast, and I was curious how you'd respond. If every one of your podcasts, magazines, and social media accounts was erased from the internet, and all that was left of your story was the next 60 seconds, what thought would you leave to the world?
So my deathbed, 60 seconds?
You could think of it like that.
Yeah, okay. Life is too short to not do work that you don't enjoy. Like, it truly is. Like life is to be lived, and you spend majority of your time working, so go out and find something that really lights you up. And when you find that, you'll be successful in it.
That's really good. I really like that, Nathan. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for
You're welcome.
Being super open and sharing so much wisdom. I know so many people are gonna really appreciate it and get a lot of value from it. So I can't thank you enough. I guess to finish up, is the best place to follow you your personal brand on Instagram, TikTok?
Just at Foundr or Nathan Chan. Yep.
Nathan. Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Nathan. It was great chatting with you.
Absolute pleasure, brother.